Hello class. I'm going to do a video over chapter 7, promoting social acceptance, and kind of talk about some of the important parts of the chapter. Before I do that, just a reminder for this week, don't forget to be doing your observations. We have a reflection over chapter 7, discussion board over chapter 8. The discussion board is actually due before the reflection so that you can have time to do responses. And please don't forget to refer to the chapter during those reflections, discussion boards, to show that you've been learning from your reading. And I can't wait to hear what you've been learning from your observations. And hopefully in your observations, you're going to be noticing the way that your teacher differentiates in the classroom and helps all of his or her students, and how you're able to see that even if students that have special needs in the general ed classroom, their needs are being met. One of those is promoting social acceptance, like chapter 7 talks about. And as a 4th grade teacher, I work very hard on this. We do daily morning meetings where my whole class comes together every morning. We greet each other. We talk about the day. We sometimes do a little game to get to know each other, get to know what's going on in each other's lives. We talk about different ways to be kind or show the different class rules that we do. And we promote being social in the classroom through different ways. We talk about being present or having growth mindset, different things. So all students can use different social skills in the classroom. They can use the examples of social skills, and they can use just lessons from the teacher. So the chapter kind of starts off with talking about how general education students and teachers do not consistently accept the students with disabilities. And I mean, there might be some cases where teachers seem to be more negative towards students with disabilities, but I do not hardly see it at all. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen that in any of my years of teaching. Teachers are very accepting. We want to help all students and differentiate to fit every student's need. So I've never seen the negativity. I feel like now special education students are mainstreamed into the classroom so often that it's just what is expected, and we're accepting of everything. The chapter did talk, in this section, it did talk about how students with social needs, that the classroom setting can be very intimidating and limiting to them. And so it's very important to encourage them in the room to speak out and maybe find a partner for them to work with to help get them used to being in the classroom. It can be very intimidating. Factors that influence teachers' attitudes. The text talked about labeling can be misleading and can have a negative effect. But if a teacher just read a student's IEP and not get to know the students, and they might have a false attitude toward it, or teacher biases, maybe listen to another teacher in the past and didn't give a child a chance to get to know them. Every child has a different relationship with each teacher, and students with special needs have different relationships with everybody. And so getting to know them not based on what a teacher had said in the past, but your relationship with the student is very important. And then lack of special training and experience. The book talks about how teachers and schools can provide professional development classes and in-services for teachers. I think that's a great idea. A few years ago, my school did a training specifically on dyslexia. And because of that training, I was able to help with a student in my class, get them help with their dyslexia, and they would have never been spotted for that. They would have fallen through the cracks or would have been spotted later down the way. So in-services can really help. Being in college right now, you're being exposed to all of these things, but in the classroom, sometimes teachers might forget or they need reminders, and that's what the professional developments can do. Former special education practices, things that they did in the past, and then things that have changed now can influence a teacher. Then the book then starts talking about principles for enhancing social acceptance, and it talks about change attitudes with information, recognize the similarities between special and general education students, prepare students in general education class for the inclusion, getting them ready, and preparing everybody, and prepare students with disabilities for inclusion, and then prepare parents for the inclusion side. Overall, I feel like in these sections that if a teacher comes in with a positive attitude and is accepting, children pick up on that and they're going to be accepting whoever's in the classroom. So I think in different situations, teachers, educators need to actually sit and prepare the general education classroom. But for the most part, students are just accepting, and they don't have to have a special class or things to work with students with disabilities, just in certain cases. Students with disabilities, if they are used to not being in a classroom full of 23, 25 students, it can be intimidating, in teaching them some social skills on how to work with students and having them come in, piece by piece at a time into the classroom might help them. And in preparing them, and when you're writing up the IEP with the team, you're talking about preparing students for their least restricted environment, and so that kind of also that goes and deals with this part with disabilities for inclusion. Preparing parents, I think on the other hand, just parents letting them know how your classroom is ran in general. I don't think any specific need to talk about a specific student. A parent of a child with a disability might want to know how the classes ran, what it's going to be like to ensure that their child will be able to succeed in that classroom. That's kind of where I'm seeing it in the education in the schools.